Hey, alright, it's the Works here. And before we get into the actual video, I've got to do the sponsorship announcement. Yeah, here it is. Our sponsor for all of our shows is Home for the LD Lee. They sell Laserdiscs, HD DVDs, and CDs. If you put Murph in when you do your checkout thingy, you get a 20% discount or something like that. Yeah, they're great. Go check them out. Home for the LD Lee for all your laser discering needs. Yeah. Well, hey everybody, this is Hans Murphy from Modesto, California, and I'm here as part of our WrestleMurphia series to talk about WrestleMania 41 as part of our WrestleMurphia series. Now, unlike our previous videos where I review wrestling shows, I'm not going to give away the results, mostly because I didn't write it down when I did the review, and well, these shows aren't worth watching again. I'm just going to give you a basic rundown of what I thought of each match. But as always, I'm not alone. I do have my brother Les here, and he's going to come in and do the Murph burps. Yeah. Now, these days, WrestleMania takes up 2 days. It was basically getting longer and longer every year, so they've now made it a 2-day event. But also, as part of that 2 days, you also get NXT Stand and Deliver. So seeing as though it starts with that, I'm going to start with that. So this is NXT Stand and Deliver. Now the show started off with a match between the deflated Rocky Maivia, who I think they call Ricky Saints. He just kind of looks like The Rock struck in '96 with some of the air let out. He just doesn't... Yeah. The Tim versus Ethan Page, whose gimmick is all ego. And yeah, he certainly seems into himself. I'm not really sold on him, but... he likes him, so I guess that's good. Now, Page has some talent. I don't think he's ready yet. And Saints, he has some impressive moves, but I don't really think he has the psychology of wrestling down yet. It just seems like a bunch of moves that don't mean anything. So we're giving this one... we then had Fraxium, which is Nathan Fraser and Axiom, taking on a team I've nicknamed Wank and Frank. You may get by the fact that I call them that I'm not fond of these guys. I like to think of them as, you remember the Blue Meanie? I like the Blue Meanie. He was cool. For a big guy, he had some great moves, and he had a lot of charisma. He was a funny guy, and yeah, I liked him. But take away the talent and the charisma, and you've kind of got Wank and Frank. Yeah, Fraxium did their best with this match. They tried to make it good. Their moves were great. They did a wonderful job. But they're working with such an untalented team that, yeah, this match was really disappointing. We then had the women's ladder match, and I will say this, I think the women's matches in WWE these days are mostly the best things that are going. I'm not really that into a lot of the men's stuff. There doesn't seem as much variety, and they just seem to be, yeah, not as interesting as matches. There was a few moves that made no sense here. Well, as always, you know, when you've got a ladder match, people are going to do the thing where they climb the ladder at snail's pace so that the other person can get up the other side of it and knock them off, all that kind of thing. But otherwise, it was a really exciting match, and I really enjoyed it. We're giving this one... So we then had the Mafia guys. I didn't write their names down. I don't get it. They're Mafia guys, but they're supposed to be good guys. That doesn't make any sense to me. But, yeah, because Mafia, you'd usually think they're the bad guys. They certainly are in all the movies, yeah. But anyway, I think they're called Tony D'Angelo and Piles or something like that. And they took on the Invaders. They're these guys that... They're called something else. I don't know. But they've been invading, so I'm just calling them the Invaders. This match was bad. The Invaders are all these guys that are coming up from the training facility, and their whole thing is that they've been held back because the WWE don't think they're ready, but they think they are, so they've decided to just invade. The people who said they weren't ready were right. They're not ready. There was also a lot of bullshit in this match, and I didn't enjoy this match at all, so it's getting... We then had a 4-way women's match between Stephanie Vakir, Julia, Jordan Grace, and Jada Parka. Now, 3 of the people in this match are amazing, especially Stephanie Vakir. I could not say enough nice things about her. I just think she's great. But then there's Jada Parker. she's nowhere near ready for this kind of match. This was for the NXT Women's Title, and yeah, all she seems to do is hit people with her ass. So if she could learn do a few more moves, yeah, I don't know. I don't really see any potential in there personally, but they seem pretty high on her. So what do I know? But aside from Jada Parker, who just kind of got in the way, we're going to give this match. Yeah, everyone else was amazing. It just, she really brought it down, and I think that match would have been probably 10 times better if she wasn't there. No disrespect, I'm sure she's a nice person. After that was the men's heavyweight title. This was between Obafemi, whose name I still think sounds like a feminine hygiene product, but yeah, he's a good wrestler. I just think that he needs a better name. So it was him versus Trick Williams and Javon Evans. Now Javon has got a lot of energy. I think he's great and sort of, moves around a lot. He's a great athlete, and I think he has a bright future in wrestling. Trick, he's good for what he does. Yeah, I think he needs a bit more work, but he seems to be all right in there. And Oba, again, I think he's great. It's got a stupid name. There was a few dodgy moments in this match, but other than that, I thought it was really exciting. It was a great match. So we're going to give this one. So yeah, the ending was a bit predictable, but yeah, other than that and the few dodgy moments, great match. So that's the end of the NXT show. We're then on to the start of the actual WrestleMania show. The show started off with Jey Uso versus Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship. This was a very poor quality match, I thought. I've heard other people say they liked it. I didn't. So, yeah. And I thought the ending was really stupid, the way that they had the loser, because we're not giving away the ending on these things. Just made him look really weak because he tapped out in like a few seconds. And, they're both supposed to be tough guys, and the tough guy would at least hold on for, a minute. This was less than, 30 seconds. So yeah, this is another match that's getting... this was followed by the tag match of the New Day versus the War Raiders. This was a good match, had a stupid ending. The tie-in with the video game was kind of dumb too. But other than that, it was a pretty solid match. Just, yeah, I didn't like the ending, so it lost a few points for that, and the tie-in crossover, and the tie-in advertising. I didn't really like that either. But other than that, solid match. So it gets... we then had Naomi versus Jade Cargill. This match there's not really much to say about it. It was, it had a big feud behind it, so that was leading to something. But the match itself, it was fine. That's the thing. It wasn't anything great, wasn't anything terrible. It was just fine. We then had Jacob Fatu versus LA Knight for the men's US title. This was a pretty crappy match, if I'm honest. The ending was pretty good, though. But I really don't get LA Knight. To me, he just seems like he's got a couple of good moves, but he's basically just the Miz with a beard, pretending to be either The Rock or Stone Cold. It tends to sort of depend on what mood he's in. I don't think he's anything special to watch. I don't get the hype. And, yeah, this match gets... after that, we were supposed to see Rey Mysterio Jr., but he pulled his groin, which sounds dirtier than it is. It's actually quite a serious injury. So he was replaced at the last minute by Rey Fenix, who's only just debuted. So it was a big moment for him. Coming in, I think it's like his second or third match, and he's at WrestleMania. And he's taking on El Grande Americano, who is not a giant coffee. It is Chad Gable in a mask. I was actually really enjoying this match, and I was going to give it a much better score. But the ending was so stupid that it made the ending of the Jey versus Gunther match look good. So, yeah, it lost a lot of points with me for that, just because of how stupidly it ended. We then had Tiffany Stratton taking on Charlotte Flair for the women's, I think it's the SmackDown title. I get confused. There's so many titles these days. This was a bit long, but otherwise it was a great match. I really liked Tiffany's Barbie-themed entrance. I thought that was really cool. I really played into her gimmick really well. And, yeah, two very great wrestlers putting on a great match. I really enjoyed it. Bit long, but other than that, yeah, great match. This was followed up by the main event of night one. This was CM Punk versus Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns. As with the Phoenix versus Gable match, there was nothing wrong with the match itself, aside from the ending. This is kind of what Triple H likes to do now that he's booking the shows. I've got it written down as the usual Triple H bullshit of pushing soap opera storylines over in-ring action. What actually happened in the ring was secondary to the badly written storylines. And that's kind of what it was, you know. You had Paul Heyman basically turning on everybody at some point, and it was just, yeah, I don't get it why they need to do all of that bullshit. Otherwise, it could have been a great match, but yeah, I was really let down by it after the ending. Night 2 started with Rhea Ripley versus Bianca Belair versus Io Sky. This was a great match. It probably should have been the main event. It wasn't overbooked. There was a storyline, but it wasn't. You know, it didn't overshadow the match. It didn't overshadow the match, and it wasn't too much. It was just nothing really stupid happened. As with some of the others, it perhaps was a bit long. And three-way matches, it's always you always have that thing of where there's two people in the ring while the other one has a really long lie down. So yeah, it's a three-way match. I don't think it's ever going to be perfect, but this was really good. So we're going to give it. We then had the street fight between Drew McIntyre and Damian Priest. This was a good match, bit long. They work really well together, but yeah, it just dragged a bit, so it lost a few points for that. So we're giving it. Now up next, it would have been Randy Orton versus Kevin Owens, but Kevin Owens is out with an injury. So at the last minute, they brought in TNA champion Joe Hendry. So it was it was Randy Orton versus Joe Hendry. It was fine, what there was of it. It was a big moment having the TNA champion come out and wrestle on WrestleMania. It should have been a bigger, longer match, and it should have actually meant something. There should have been some build-up between, a feud between the two companies or something like that. But there wasn't. It was a cool moment to see him come out, but the match was nothing really. It was fine, but it was over before it started, essentially. So we're giving it. This was followed by AJ Styles versus Logan Paul. This was a long match, or at least it felt like it. I didn't actually time any of these. AJ did his best, but while Logan is a decent athlete, he's not a wrestler. He does some impressive moves, but he has no sense of in-ring psychology. It's kind of like watching a chihuahua that's learned how to do flips. It's impressive the first time, but it doesn't really mean anything. We're giving this one. We then saw the Women's Tag Team Championships. This was Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez versus Lyra Valkyria and Becky Lynch, who was a last-minute replacement for Bayley. It was a good, solid match. It would have been better with Bayley, because I think Bayley's a much better wrestler than Becky. But Becky's still good. It's just it's one of those things, they just bring her back from injury and suddenly she's in a title match. But, it was fine. It was a good match. And so we're going to give it. And then the main event of night 2 was John Cena versus Cody Rhodes. This was barely a match. Cena did a bunch of moves, then Cody did a bunch of moves. Then that walking sack of dog shit known as Travis Scott sort of wandered slowly down to the ring to get involved. And, the match itself was just kind of boring. And the ending was very stupid. That seems to be a theme of this show. This is a problem with a lot of Triple H's long-term storytelling style of booking. He's far more interested in making his shitty little soap operas play out as intended than putting on a show of great wrestling matches. Maybe he should just fuck off and get a job writing for the Days of Our Lives or some shit like that. Because this kind of bullshit worked there. It doesn't really work here. We're giving that one. So our overall review for WrestleMania, including Stand and Deliver, we're going to give it. What was good wasn't good enough to really counteract all of the awfulness of the bad. I've seen pretty much every WrestleMania. I missed a few in the sort of between 30 and 38. But this is probably the worst I've ever seen. It's pretty clear to me that Triple H and his team are kind of out of their depth when it comes to putting on a show like this. Pretty much putting on a show like anything, because most of what they're booking has been pretty bad, to be perfectly honest. So they're either out of their depth or just utterly clueless. And there's never really been a bad WrestleMania. There's just been ones that weren't as good. And to be perfectly honest, this would have only been 2 Murph if it wasn't for Stand and Deliver. And seeing as though it's been a month and we've had another pay-per-view since then called Backlash, we may as well include our review of that, because there's only 5 matches, and we're not actually going to go into every match, because the whole thing, it was shit. Not even good enough to be talked about, and not even bad in a way that's actually entertaining to talk about. So, do better, Triple H. We're giving that show, as a whole... So yeah, that's our review of basically the state of WWE at the moment. Hopefully things get better. They can't get much worse. So yeah. Oh yeah, don't forget to check out our website. Don't forget Home for the LDLE. Like, subscribe, comment, all of that stuff. And see ya.